it's really hard to summarize how awesome the last 2 days have been. So I've been frantically trying to do that in the last 15 minutes. So yeah, the point of this talk is to keep everybody excited for the next thing that you're going to sign up to come to, where we will have iterated on this somewhat and just introduce a whole bunch of new ideas that people have been handing over to us. And also to thank all of you for coming and all of the TAs for doing all of the work that they did, and the rest of the people that were involved besides the TAs that had even less visibility to what you actually witnessed, but was 90% of the hard work to make all of this go smoothly. Before we jump into, so I actually have an outline for this. Before we jump, and this is not really complete, but before we jump into kind of the exciting stuff about like how cool we are, I just want to talk about how you actually, a little bit of a roadmap for you to contribute back to, in a more serious way than just coming and playing with the things, to contribute back to the community-driven spirit and the open source software that we're writing. So somebody asked me this at lunch, actually, just a gentleman from Cisco, and it really inspired me to think through what does the person who hasn't contributed to this stack need to do in order to get involved in a practical way. And as the person who like spends a lot of time on documentation and answering the questions on the mailing list that are easy to answer, I think I have a little bit of insight into this. So the first thing that I recommend people do is join the Spark developers mailing list or join the Spark users mailing list if you're just going to be playing around as a user. If you're serious about actually picking a feature to contribute back and you're excited about all of the different features and components of the badass stack, then let's dive into that path a little bit. So join the developers mailing list. This is actually going to consume a significant amount of time. So you could probably spend between a half hour and an hour a day reading all of the mail that happens on the developers mailing list, which means that very few of us actually read all of the mail. And that's a good thing. That means that the community has scaled beyond what any single person can maintain in their head. What it also means is that you can just kind of watch. So subscribe to dev and then watch for a week or two and see what seems interesting to you. So what I personally do is I mute everything that's related to machine learning in my Gmail. Even though I'm very fascinated by machine learning, it's not something I see myself contributing to. And I've actually contributed a bunch lately to the infrastructure, the development of the Jenkins tests and the performance tests and just the whole testing infrastructure. So anything that comes up like that, I star. And I come back and I read through thoroughly. And then I'll start asking questions to just get an idea from the people who are leading the development work there. Like, okay, why did you pick this choice? Or have you thought about this? So first that gets my name in their minds, and it gets me like engaged and excited to be communicating with the people who are working on the software. And then after I have an idea of what they're working on and they give me some insight into why they've been doing what they've been doing, I'll start looking at code that they've submitted as pull requests. And actually it's very easy to make comments on code and ask questions on pull requests, and everybody's very happy to explain why they made the decisions they made, and you can learn a lot about the language and the culture of the code that we write, which we spend a lot of time thinking about. Why, like, what features in Scala do we kind of tend to not use to keep the code simpler, for instance. And after you've commented on code pull requests, then you can take on submitting a simple pull request. And I recommend you find some documentation to write and just fix a typo first, just to get through the pipeline and actually have a pull request that exists that gets merged in. And then pick something that's a little more aggressive. You've been maybe commenting on somebody else's pull requests around the shuffle phase optimization, and now you can submit a small pull request that's related to that. And once you've got to the point where you've submitted a single pull request, whether it be documentation or something else, I would call you an active contributor to the project. And one of the most amazing things about the culture that we've set up is, as is a testament, this event, documentation is a first-class citizen in the development of the software, which means that Matei spends, and Reynold, and TD, and HY, they spend a significant portion of their time, maybe sometimes in some days or weeks, much more of their time working on documentation than they do on the actual code itself. And that's because we care about people using it. I'll have a slide in a second that shows how much effort went into just the source for the event that we ran today, which is just text explaining how to use the APIs. and the command line interfaces that represent the human interface to our software. So the internals is a whole nother deep dive that this event didn't even get into. And then by that point, I think you're integrated member of the community. Your name is known to the core developers, and you're well on your way to being a core developer and to some feature that you care about. But really, as we now all are a community in this together, since you spent 4 hours working on all of the different components of the stack that we're building, and if you choose to continue to be a part of the community, then this is, I think, a very good way to understand the culture that we've established and that we've all established together, and continue to build and become a core component of it. All right, so that's, I think, a high-level roadmap. And that, by the way, this is my opinion. So somebody else that you talk to may say I'm completely wrong about this. So now let's get to a little bit more of the fun stuff that I'm excited about. It turns out yesterday we made the homepage of Ustream, which I think is pretty cool. We didn't tell them to put us there, but we're still on the homepage now. And we have over 1,000 people who are members in the class in Piazza. And we have been collecting feedback, and we care quite a bit about your feedback. What we're seeing is that we did a pretty good job of not making things too difficult or too easy. We've got the feedback from the 2 forms that we filled out, but we're also going to go through a lot more of the kind of statistics we've been collecting of the covers with Google Analytics to see kind of which pages you spent the most time on and which pages you spent the least time on. So this is the slide I was referencing earlier, where this is actually the training repo. So this is the documentation repository that you all used the source code that was compiled from these markdown files. So you can see in the last week, from the 23rd to the 30th, we've had 1,000 lines, or let's see, yeah, basically 20 issues and a lot of documentation written by a lot of people. We even had some, so this is in the community of this event, the micro community as I would call it. We had a pretty awesome conversation involving Shivram and Matei and myself and John about whether we really need Emacs to work well on the cluster or if VI is enough. And I actively recommend you participate in this conversation if you like VI. And then this is just for fun. I asked the photographer for his favorite shots so far. So we can just take a look quick at some of the people that have participated in a very, let's look at ourselves kind of way. Love what you do. And then the Oracle and the Apple are kind of in a weird love hug there. Don't know what that means. And I think this is the best one to end on. So yeah, so that's how cool we look. The same guy that we had the awesome conversation with about VI took the time to make a dozen pull or GitHub issues. Next time, I think we're going to recommend people just actively, when they find a typo, create a, fix the markdown file and create a pull request, and you're already part of our community, but because you're committing your code. This is Shivram. Shivram made all the clusters happen. He's made all the clusters happen at the first 2 AMP camps and at this one. And I think the rest of the team we can finish introducing, but I think Mike Franklin wants to come and say a word to wrap things up. He's the director of the AmpLab. It was a year and 6 months ago about that Matei and Mike and I and a subset of the TAs were in the AmpLab together, and I remember when Matei proposed the name Amp Camp, and that was kind of the pivotal moment for me where I was like, okay, yeah, I'm getting behind this thing. So Mike's been there for all the AMP camps. He's director of the AmpLab and kind of the namesake association there. I think it's appropriate that he have some concluding remarks.
All right, well, thanks a lot, Andy. So really, I'm just going to wrap up quickly. I want to, first of all, just thank everybody for for coming and spending the last 2 days with us, and for all the time you spent with us in the past, and hopefully all the stuff you're going to do with us in the future. Sitting through an event like this, it's easy to forget that this is a research project that's done by a group of students and postdocs, and the level of professionalism that they're able to put together, and the amount of impact that they're able to have while they're doing top quality research is just really amazing. And so I'd just like to thank all the students and the researchers in the lab. So. We're able to have a high degree of impact because of our embracing of the open source community and vice versa. And it's important for the university administration here to see the benefits that we bring to the university and to the community through this open source approach. As you can imagine, it's not universally agreed upon that this is the right way for universities to release software. And so I encourage you guys to make as much noise about it, and if you support what we're doing, to be vocal about that support. So just briefly, I want to thank, first of all of our sponsors who provide us first of all, the financial flexibility to be able to put on events like this and to be able to do the work we do, and also provide us with continuous feedback and guidance throughout the research that we do. I want to thank a few people particularly. Kat is in the back there, and Bobin, if he's still around. And if you stand up, and I don't know, is it Michelle? Okay, she's out watching the computer. And the planning for this event started like a year ago, and these guys have been in the thick of it. It's been, it all comes off so smoothly, it looks easy, but it's not. So let's thank them. Okay. Andy knows me well. He has cheat notes for me here.
Yeah, they are.
Okay. I'm just going to spend a half hour and read all these names. No. You can put on your glasses and read them all. These are, some of the amazing people, or probably most of the amazing people who participated as TAs and, tested the software and got things to work. And then, really, finally, I want to thank Andy, who really, it's his enthusiasm that, drove this. It was really. Everybody on this list and, everyone involved all has lots of things to do and lots of things to think about, and Andy did a great job of making sure that this was something that we kept making progress on, and that all came together. So I think that's all I have. So with that, again, thanks again for your participation, and we look forward to seeing you online and in GitHub and anywhere else it makes sense for us to see you. So we'll see you later.